Hello and welcome to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, oxygenaddict.com, fueledbycake.com, myprotein.com and raceforce.co.uk. Helen, how are you, mate?
Hey, Rob. I'm good, thank you. Today's a coffee morning. Quite often I chat to you with a cup of tea, but today it's a coffee.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. Needing
stuff.
a bit more. Woo!
Needed a bit. Were you up early today?
Yes, right. Now, I got up early today because I thought I'd be really super organised. I was in a classroom all weekend, so didn't have any time at the weekend. So I thought, right, I'm going to get to Tesco in the 6 hour to buy a fake Christmas tree, right?
Good for you.
Yeah,
6 a.m. Tesco's run.
6 a.m. Tesco's run. Rocked up, got there around about 6:30, went in. It's a really odd time to go into a big supermarket. And no, they'd sold out of Christmas trees. I was like...
Oh, breaks your heart.
Oh, what a waste of time that was. However...
You've got to buy it in January.
Well, buy it in January, buy it in August maybe.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's the thing. Find one that's left over.
Messed up on that one. On the flip side, let's always see the positive of things. I went straight from there to the swimming pool, and usually it doesn't open till 7. Apparently, it's now open Monday to Friday from 6:15 a.m. That's really good news.
It is. Yeah, Matt Wackett was saying that as well the other day, actually.
Yeah.
He said he rocked up and found that they're opening earlier. It's happening in a few more pools around, certainly around our local area.
This is brilliant.
Talking about opening up, it's going to be great for the clubs, isn't it? If we can get some early morning time, get the swim done first thing. It's the only way to get it done.
Totally. So basically, that means now I could go there and then still manage to miss rush hour traffic. That is just brilliant.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's the way to do it, definitely.
So yeah, no Christmas tree, but bingo to the pool.
But an early swim. Good for you, mate.
There you go.
That's dedication, still getting the swimming done at this time of year. Focusing on next year. Good for you.
Well, I did see in London, Hampton Court Pool. Have you ever swum there? It's really nice.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, really, really nice. It's an outdoor pool, and it's heated, and it is open on Christmas Day. They have a swim around about lunchtime, kind of 12 till 1 or 1 till 2, and you have to book in. So yeah, if you are mega desperate for a swim on Christmas Day, maybe before the turkey and the roast potatoes, then yeah, go down to Hampton Court Pool. Book in though.
Do you know, many years ago, I worked as a gym instructor and lifeguard at a big hotel in Blackpool, and Christmas Day was like the worst shift ever.
Oh no!
Because loads of people obviously go away for Christmas, and they have the Christmassy lunch and stuff, and then all afternoon it was rammed. It was like a 3 rescue afternoon because all these parents would turn up, drop the kids off, disappear,
go and get drunk.
Hundreds of kids in the pool. All of them just had a big dinner. You were constantly fishing with these kids out for getting cramp and being sick. Oh, it was the worst Christmas day of my life.
Oh God, that sounds pretty grim.
It was like a 10 till 10 shift on Christmas Day.
Goodness. Did you get double?
I remember so grumpy. I don't think we even did. I think it was just turn up and do it.
Rubbish, isn't it?
Yeah. Happy days.
So if you're in London and you fancy a swim on Christmas Day, check out the Hampton Court Pool website, but don't just turn up. You have to book.
Oh, good information.
Yep.
Good information. Oh, my legs are sore, Hells.
Oh, go on, fill me in. What have you been up to? You were actually racing. Oh my
I
God.
raced. Yeah, I'm back, baby. Achilles tendons not sore.
But so last year.
Yeah.
Or last week.
It was good.
Go on, fill me in. What was it?
So we went and did this adventure race. Me and Andy Heaps did a pairs adventure race where it's called Open Adventure.
Yep.
So 5 hours to do 2 big orienteering courses. You can choose to do as much or as little on the bike and the run as you want, but you've got to be back within 5 hours or you get penalties.
Okay.
And so you roll up to the start line. It's great. It's dead low key, dead laid back, farmer's field. Leave your bag here with your running shoes in. Off you go on the bike, and they give you a map with controls on, and you zoom off all around the North Wales hills looking for these controls.
Oh.
So the mistake Andy and I made was we rolled up saying this is going to be a really good laugh. We're going to go out and have fun, and then halfway around decided we were going to take it really seriously and try and get as many points as possible. And all the advice we were given was you've got to spend loads of time planning your route before you go.
You didn't do that
and
at
of
all.
course, No, we would like leg it to a point and go, awesome, we found it. Where should we go next? Oh god damn it, this point was worth like 10
Oh
points.
no!
Yeah, so we wanted like a big day out on the bike, so we went to all the furthest points, stupidly thinking the furthest points would be worth the most.
No.
And what the organisers had cleverly done was they made the closest points worth the most. So if you like, that the guys who were really competing for the win,
Yeah.
they had to decide whether to go for that furthest away point that was only worth 5 points or 10 points.
Oh.
Because that might give them the edge just to win,
Yeah.
but it might push them over the time limit, which means every minute over the 5 hours you got penalised. I don't know, it's like 2 points a minute
That's
or
really
something.
cool.
Really cool. So 4 hours on the bike, 2 punctures, several face plants, lots of falling off, and then about an hour and 10 minutes of charging up Mulvama and back down
Oh,
again.
beautiful.
So yeah, legs like hammered meat this morning from
Nice, nice.
from us going. Can we make it to the top? Can we get that last one? Oh yeah, let's
Go
do
on,
it.
go on.
Yeah, and a proper full-on charge down the hill for 20
Oh,
minutes
that
at the
is
end of the day.
brilliant. So once
Great. You got to
again,
come do the next one.
it sounds good fun. I would need to get a mountain bike.
You can borrow one of somebody, or you can rent one.
Oh.
They're all held in places where you can rent mountain
Well,
bikes.
could be an option. I'm not very good on a mountain bike though. This is the only issue.
Compared to me, mate.
No, seriously.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've only been twice. Once was a disaster and I cried. So
Okay.
I'm really not great.
Yeah. There's a fair bit of crying went on yesterday,
Oh
actually.
God. So how did you finish compared to the winners?
In terms of points, we were rubbish.
Okay. In terms of
Because it's
fun?
all strategy. In terms of fun, we were clearly the winners because the people who were like competing didn't look like they were having any fun at all. It was very, very serious
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
But in terms of how much we enjoyed it, we had a right hoot. And I've got to say, the majority of the people there as well were having a real laugh.
Yep.
And I think there's only the real people who were competing for it were really seriously into it. But like that being said, I think if you went and you did some planning beforehand and you planned a route, maybe you'd have scored more points.
Yeah, could.
So,
That
yeah,
sounds great.
it was
And you
good.
know what? Orienteering was always one of my favourite activities. You know, when with school you'd go on an outdoor ed, weekend
Yeah,
or week or something.
yeah,
I was probably one of the only people who genuinely looked forward to the orienteering. I was like, this is so much fun. This is like cross country running with a bit of map reading.
yeah. It
Yeah,
is.
it's
It's
great.
really, really
Yeah.
good. You got really, loads of exposure up on top of the hills, and you got to choose where you were going, and you would sort of cross paths with loads of other competitors. But like go hello, and then go off in a different direction. You go, where the hell are they going? Are we in the right place? But yeah, it was really good fun.
So when's the next one?
They're every month.
Okay.
They're on the around the 14th of every month.
Are you going to
So
do the next one? January?
yeah, we're going to do the one in January, I think, and then I'm away, I think, for the one in February.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so there's one in the Forest of Bowland on the 10th of January, and then there's one in the Lakes on the 13th of March. So
Rob is
yeah,
back racing,
yeah, well, not racing, but charging around and having fun.
competing,
No one said either. But I tell you what,
participating.
get one hell of a workout on a mountain bike.
Yeah.
It's like trying to get yourself up a hill and your tires are sliding around, and it was like doing a 3.5 hour hard interval set. It really was. It was.
But a lot
Wow, I
more.
was knackered at the end of it.
But a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah.
This is it. You see, embrace the
Yeah.
outdoors. It's great.
Brace the outdoors for winter. You said it.
Yeah,
Right, we better talk about some results, I suppose, really, rather than just you and me having a
I
chat.
think so. And well, Rob, can we start? Well, really, there is only one place to start, which is the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think we
reckon
should start with.
New Zealand.
Go on.
New Zealand.
Yeah, let's start
Yeah.
with New Zealand. Because today's interview is with the wonderful Laura SIddall. We finally managed to catch up with her, and she has just taken third place at 70.3 Taupo in New Zealand.
Exactly. So it was what an awesome. She had the fastest bike split, didn't she? 2:21:51, and
Yeah,
second best run 1:22:48. Absolutely flying on both.
yeah,
Um,
she did really well. And there wasn't a lot in it. I think she was about a minute behind second and another minute behind the win. So fantastic performance for her.
yeah.
Um, this is really funny because I talked to her last week for the interview to do it for this week, and I need to remember that you and everyone else listening hasn't heard it yet.
No.
So all the interview is focused on she's moving down to New Zealand for a few months to go and do some races and get some training in down there in the Southern Hemisphere, summertime,
Yeah.
as it were. So isn't that awesome though? For a third place is
Yeah,
brill.
absolutely fantastic. So it was won by Meredith Kessler in 4:17. She was first out of the water. Then Amelia Watkinson of New Zealand was second. Laura third, and then Sam Warriner in her last race, the pro, I think, she finished in 4:25. So, the top three there got a good cushioning on Sam Warriner, didn't they? Like
Yeah.
5-6 minutes. So
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. And I know Laura's been busy training her butt off in and around New Zealand. So yeah, absolutely awesome to see that.
Yeah, she got second, didn't she, at
Wanaka.
Challenger Wanaka, yeah, last year.
Yep.
So she's back down for that. So she'll have a big training block there. But you will hear all later on in the interview. We got a good interview with her. She's good value, actually. She's good, fun character. And the thing I really like about her is she has turned pro
Yep.
late on in life. She's kind of mid-30s, and having taken up triathlon late, she was like, I'm actually quite good at this. So it would have been easy for her, I think, to stick with the age group and stick with a corporate job and keep on winning age groups.
Yep.
She's got multiple age group world championships, so good for her stepping up. And if she could, when she's podiumed here at 70.3, if she could get a win, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
That'd be really, really cool. Definitely. And I think I've said before, my friend who went out to Australia was working in Sydney, and he's still out there actually. But he was in the same tri club as Laura just before she went pro. So I remember him saying, she's nails, basically.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't keep up with her. Like, she's amazing. And that was before she went over to San Francisco to turn pro. So absolutely brilliant story. And she's working under Purple Patch, isn't she, Matt Dixon?
Yeah,
So,
working with Matt Dixon. So there's a good story about that in the podcast, actually.
looking forward to it.
And really nicely, she's hooked us up, actually, with Matt Dixon. I got an email off him 2 days ago to say he'd love to come on the show. So I'm going to try and line this up for the new year. I think it'd be brilliant to have him on because his roster of pro triathletes, and obviously he's got a massive age group coaching business as well.
Yeah,
so we'll really be able to drill in for information. Oh, yes.
That'd be great.
So interview with Matt Dixon coming up in the new year.
Fantastic.
Fingers crossed, hopefully.
And Rob, the men's results at Taupo, it was a Kiwi 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in fact. Braden Curry won in 3:51.48, ahead of Callum Millwood in 3:52.38, and then Dylan McNeice was third in 3:57. And I think I heard an interview recently with Braden Curry, who has basically, he's done everything in triathlon, but the one thing he hasn't done is represent New Zealand at the Olympics, and I think he wants to try to give it a go and get one of those spots.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, there we go. So yeah, congratulations to everyone in Taupo. What a beautiful part of the world.
And then another beautiful part of the world over in Ballarat, which
nice
is
link there, Rob.
Yes, we think it's down near Victoria, don't we, or Melbourne, somewhere down in Australia.
Yes, yes.
We've had Nick Baldwin, who's been on the show.
Yeah.
Brit and Seychelles. He's racing for the Seychelles, but we're claiming him as our own because he's very much British. We're claiming you, Nick. And he had a really disappointing end to his season last year, didn't he?
It didn't ever quite click for him, did it? No.
Yeah, punctures and injuries and all kinds of stuff to finish the year off. So it's great to see him taking third place at big down under 70.3. It sounds like his swim has really improved, doesn't it? We looked these up. He came out of the water about a minute and a half down on the really fast boys.
Yep.
So his swim's obviously really improved. And then did he have the fastest bike split? Do I remember that right? I think.
Yeah, he did. He had the fastest with a 2:07.
2:07.40. That is smoking. That's like over 40k an hour.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, he was sort of by around about 20 seconds. He had the fastest bike split ahead of Per Bittner, who finished actually ahead of him in second place. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well done, mate.
He finished with a 1:21 run. So
it looks like all the run times were kind of in that area, doesn't it?
Yeah, apart from the guy who won, Matthew Pello did a 1:18. So
okay,
like
so it's not one of those, not one of those super fast runs, is it?
No,
so
no.
bet it was pretty hot and toasty down there this time of year.
So that's great, isn't it, for Nick? Well done.
Yeah. Well done, Baldwin.
We like
Boulders.
it. We like it.
Women's race taken out by Annabelle Luxford. Yvonne van Vlerken racing. Is that back-to-back weekends for
Yeah,
her?
it is, isn't it?
Steve second, 5 minutes back, and Kate Pedley of Australia in third.
Awesome.
Mm.
Good stuff. Now,
So, what else did we have going on around the world? We had a little bit of triathlon news, didn't we?
yeah, we did. So we had a little bit of cross-country runners. Now, this isn't unheard of. Some of the younger triathletes, especially the British, some of the younger British triathletes, being selected for the British team for the European Cross Country Championships. I've definitely heard of this before. And
Yeah.
Ben Dijkstra, who was the Youth Olympics champion the other year, and Alex Yee, I've heard of him as well. They were both part of this British team. Yee got 9th and Ben got 19th to help the British junior men get a bronze medal. So that was at the European Cross Country Championships in France.
I tell you what, it's pretty impressive that triathletes are finishing top 10 in the European Cross Country Championships, isn't it? It just goes to show how they are complete athletes these days, rather than, quite good at swimming and biking and running. They're now like European world class in all three sports as well.
Totally. And I was trying to think, I think is it Georgia Taylor Brown? Does that name ring a bell? I think previously.
She's from Sale, isn't she?
Yeah, she's definitely been selected before and done that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I remember her passing me in one of the local Sale 5Ks.
Flying.
Flying past me after I'd gone off too fast, was exploding like a don't know what. She just danced past
in like a 15 minute? Yeah.
I think she ran low 16 minutes. Wow. So yeah, she was quick, man.
That's amazing.
Good stuff.
Then the other thing, big bit of news in the triathlon team kind of world, is that David McNamee has signed up with BMC, Place BMC. So
yeah, they've snapped him up, haven't they, after his 11th place at Kona?
Yeah. So there was quite a funny little video that they put on their social media.
Yeah. No, don't ride your new bike into a pool. Don't do that. It's a $4,000 race bike.
Yeah, it makes us feel a little bit like, what the heck? To them, bikes are clearly just, here you go, here's another one. Doesn't matter if you really wreck it.
What is going on there? New bearings, please.
So
I don't know. Maybe it's no different to spraying it with a power sprayer when you get back from a dirty ride in the winter.
Yeah, but essentially wasn't it him and one of the other members of the team, and they were at their training camp and they cycled the bikes into the pool.
And I didn't know he was only 27.
McNamee?
Yeah.
What, did you think he was younger?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty young to be finishing 12th. It'd be interesting to see how he goes this year. The BMC team obviously think he's got a big future, and on the basis of being able to run really well in the heat, I think they're probably right.
Yeah.
Interesting that they didn't snap up Mr. Skipper as well, I think.
Yeah, you wonder what their thinking is behind it all.
You'd have thought they'd have had the pair of them, 2 for 1.
Yeah.
Maybe Joe's got his own thing going on.
I don't know. I mean, who else is on at Place BMC? They've got Will Clark, haven't they? They've got Liz Blatchford, Corinne Abraham.
They don't have her anymore, actually.
Oh, do they not?
She's just announced that she's leaving, and she has gone over to another team who, damn it, I've forgotten the name of. But they're wearing white and green. Okay. So there you go, the white and green team. And we've actually had an email back from her. She's going to come on the show in January as well.
Love this. Brilliant.
So she's moved on from BMC onto her new team. Okay. It's the one that Fraser Cartmell's also racing for next year. So a pair of them are on that new team.
Okay.
So she said, I was waiting for the details of the new team to come out before I wanted to talk to anybody. Okay, so brilliant. I'm up for it after Christmas.
Yes, fantastic. That's really good.
Yeah.
So there you go. There was a space. Sophie Goose of Belgium, she's on that team, the Upplace BMC, and then Romain Guillaume, isn't it?
It's not Upplace anymore, mate.
Oh, have I got it all wrong?
It's BMC Ethics now, the new sponsor for the next year.
Fine.
It was. Or is it Upplace or Uplace?
I don't know.
You don't know. Doesn't matter anymore because they're not sponsoring it anymore.
Oh dear, I need to buck up my ideas on that one, don't I?
BMC Ethics, yeah.
There we go.
So there we go. So I wonder whether we'll see more of this kind of team triathlon thing happening. It seems like a good way for sponsors to get bang for the buck,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
definitely. And I think there are a few more. There's the one, is there like Almeida or something in Egypt?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're right. I saw some photos from Egypt the other day for that team
Yeah,
launch.
you've obviously got the Bahrain endurance team. Um,
Yeah,
Previously, you would have had, wasn't there the Abu Dhabi team that like Rachel Joyce and he who
yeah.
wore
I
speedos?
think Abu Dhabi was the first.
Yeah,
That dated back to the early 2000s. Faris Al
yeah,
Sultan
that's
was
it.
on it.
Yeah.
And they also had a Commerzbank team for a while, didn't they?
Ah, okay.
German Commerzbank team that had what's his name? Marino
Yeah.
van Honak rode for them, and Scott Nedley was on them for a while.
But even if you think about it, even amongst um, age group triathlon, there is sort of a team environment, isn't there, as well? You've got Free Speed, those guys who are doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think they've hit a very clever niche in the market because they realised that by sponsoring the really top age groupers,
Hmm.
um, they're going to get probably even more publicity
Yep.
for having six age groupers continually winning
Yep.
everything rather than sponsoring pros who are going to be, always in the top
Yeah.
10,
But not
but
necessarily winning.
they're certainly seeing these guys on the podiums all the time. So, Free Speed have seen a clever gap in the market there, I
Yeah,
think.
definitely. So yeah, I think it is something that exists, and I think it's something that is yeah, is going to carry on and probably increase as well, growing, isn't it?
Well, Hals, I tell you what, talk about smooth links. You've led me into this beautifully
Oh, nice, nice.
because
Nothing planned.
nothing, no, there was nothing, there literally is nothing planned. But I'm going to launch Team Oxygen Addict in the middle of January.
Nice.
Definitely going to happen. I
Right.
mentioned it a few weeks ago. I've got some bits and bobs going on in the background and still haven't managed to get things up on a web page. But our idea is to put an age group team together of people who want coaching
Yep.
but can't afford to pay the sort of £100 a month prices that are traditionally charged by coaches like me. So we're going to put this team together of people who are all racing Ironman. That's going to be our aim for this year.
Okay.
So people racing Ironman for next year, the idea is we're all going to be in a big group. We're all going to have some kind of private forum or Facebook group where everyone gets to chat and talk about the training. The training is going to be a kind of combination of all the things I've used with my privately coached clients over the years. So it isn't going to be private personalized coaching where everyone gets a completely different training plan to everybody else. It's going to be much more kind of based around a training plan that everyone's going to get, and then loads of guidelines of how to sort of alter the bits and bobs for themselves if life gets in the way.
Yep. As it
If
often
your boss
does.
sends you to London for the week, as it always does. Right, so hopefully it's going to be a bridge. I'm aiming for it to be a bridge between, really high quality coaching
Yep.
and getting a plan out of a book where you look at it and go, well, what the hell do I do now?
Yep.
Because I've missed a week, I've been ill. So people are going to have contact with me through, and again, we still haven't worked out the total details for this yet. It's definitely going to be a forum or a Facebook, and it's maybe even going to be a video call that people can call into and either email questions in or like a group video chat.
Brilliant.
So I want to get it up and going because I think people are going to need about 20 weeks to prepare for their Ironmans in the summer. So if I can have it launched by sort of mid-January,
Yeah.
that's going to have everybody on the plan in time to roll through for sort of summertime racing of this year. So I'm going to have to do it now, Hals. I'm going
You
to have to go
are.
and put
You've
a web
committed.
page up. Team Oxygen Addict page up. If you're interested, bang your details for your email in there. And when I've worked out what I'm doing after Christmas, I'll send out the details, and you'll be the first to know about it.
Brilliant.
There we go.
Nice one. Excellent.
I should tell you all this stuff really before I'm going to do it, shouldn't I? Really, we
It's
should
fine.
have this
We
discussion.
just go with the flow. It's all good.
No time for planning. There's too much fun to be had.
Oh, too much life going on, Rob.
Yeah, you said it. So you've had a weekend of. You're almost there. You're almost qualified to be a personal trainer now, aren't you?
No, not quite. Personal trainer, not yet. A fitness instructor.
So is it like the level 2 is a fitness
Yeah,
instructor?
level 2
level
fitness
3 is
instructor, and then level 3 is the personal trainer course. So level
fantastic.
2 Yeah, hopefully, but
So does level 2 focus on sort of being in a gym
yeah,
and weight training and
yep,
using treadmills and things like that?
definitely, you've got it. And then level
Awesome.
3 is more sort of personalised, actually training people. Yeah. So level 2, I have been introduced to the world of weights. It's a very new world for me, but I'm trying to get my head around it
Polishing the
all.
guns, have you?
Say again.
Been polishing the guns.
Oh, I don't have any guns. They're like, you say you're weedy. Oh my goodness, it's hilarious. Even if it's on like the lowest, I can barely, move said weights. So yeah, it's going to be good though. Whatever. Even um, just having the knowledge now that actually I can see why this is actually useful to do, and to do some
Oh yeah,
yeah, to
definitely.
strengthen various parts of the body that we use a lot in swimming and biking and running. So yeah, it's a work in progress, Rob. I'm
Whole
learning all the
new world.
time.
You know what? The best thing about weights is that as we get a little bit older, we need to keep the muscle that we've got, even if you don't want to be a gym rat and become one
Yeah.
of those orange people in the corner of the gym with a very low cut
Oh,
vest.
there was one guy with very low cut shorts over the weekend.
Low cut?
Very
You mean
low.
low cut or do you mean high cut?
Oh, sorry. Well, high cut, I guess. Yeah, very
Like
high
runner
cut. Yeah,
shorts?
runner shorts.
Dear.
Um,
Don't approve of that.
oh my goodness, it was quite disturbing. And then there was. It's very interesting, isn't it, in a gym who you get? There was another guy who clearly belonged out on the ultra running trails because he was doing the shorts over the leggings approach in the gym.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that this weekend.
Oh, was there?
A lot of shorts over the leggings. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't really blend in. I've got to be
Were you
honest. And
just there
my
with your leggings?
yeah, basically dressed as a triathlete wasn't good.
Yeah. That's a debate for another day, isn't it? I'm not even
It
going to
is.
start it off.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
On that note.
Let's let's hand this over to our interview with the wonderful Laura SIddall. Laura, welcome to the Cup of Tri podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
So it's either tomorrow or yesterday where you are right now over in New Zealand, isn't it?
It is. It's Tuesday morning here, so I think I'm in the future at the moment.
You are. You're in the future and you're just back from the pool. So thanks for squeezing in the interview amongst the hard training.
That's all right, not a problem.
Listen, I like to start off by getting athletes to introduce themselves and basically give a sort of 100-word roundup of their life and career in triathlon so far. So do you think you can do that for us?
Oh yeah, I'm sure I can. Gosh, I'm not very good at keeping to word limits. If you've read any
That's
of
it.
my blogs
You've used
speak to
50
any
of
of my
them up
friends,
already.
they say I always write far too long. Right, okay. So yes, Laura SIddall. I've been a professional triathlete for about the last 18 months. British by background, mechanical engineer by background, moved to Australia in about 2007, 2008. And that's where I kind of found the sport of triathlon. Went through the age group ranks, sprints, Olympics, moved up to halves, and then took the plunge to give it a shot and see what I could do on the professional circuit. At which point I then resigned from corporate world and moved my life from Sydney over to San Francisco to work with Matt Dixon from Purple Patch, which is kind of where I'm based now, albeit I'm currently in New Zealand. But yeah, so that's and
Wow, so you've really flown through the. Well, I don't think you've done yourself justice here, actually. So I'm going to fill in some gaps. So you first recorded races on your website here in like 2010, 2011, and right off the bat, you've got some amazing results. You were second at the World Champs in your age group in the sprint distance in Budapest. Lots of local wins in Australian races. Then the next year you win the World Championships in Beijing at sprint distance. The next year you win the Olympic distance World Championships in your age group in Auckland. And then the next year step up to racing some 70.3s and win the 70.3 World Championships in your age group. So that's the first 4 years of your amateur career there covered off. So that's pretty full on. And that's the really interesting thing that I wanted to get you on the show for, because you are one of these amazing stories of someone who's taken up the sport relatively later in life, found you really good at it, and then the most important thing for me to that's why I really want to get you on was you've had the balls to go, I'm going to leave a well-paying corporate job and see how far I can get and turn pro because I'm winning everything in my age group. So that's a pretty ballsy move to do that.
Yeah, ballsy, crazy. I'm not really sure
I love it.
yet.
There won't be anybody listening who's not rooting for you after hearing the story, because I think everybody has this impression that a pro triathlete, in inverted commas, lives this kind of cosseted life of getting loads of money from sponsors and loads of free kit, and it's really glamorous and you're always on photo shoots. But pretty much everybody I've interviewed is living at or below the breadline and training their legs off in borrowed kit and scraping a living together from some prize money. So your story is amazing, because obviously you've done this into your 30s, haven't you, and made this decision to step away from your professional career to go and really see how far you can get. So I just love that.
Yeah, it's funny. Sort of, I found the sport of triathlon, I guess. I was in Australia working in a corporate job, and some friends were doing a charity bike ride. And so I'd always been into sport. Sport had been a huge part of my life growing up. So I was like, yep, that sounded good. I'll do that. I bought a bike, I think the week before the race. It was a hybrid kind of mountain bike, road bike type thing. And did the race and just really enjoyed it. And I'm not saying I found it easy, but I was in trainers and just normal clothes, I guess, on this sort of mountain bike doing this 56-mile road. It was, a charity ride.
Yeah.
Just really enjoyed it. And friends just suggested, oh, you should give triathlon a go. And I was doing athletics at that point and sort of 800 meters on the track, and hadn't really found a group in Australia that I gelled with. So I found a beginners group in Sydney where I was living, a group called Bondi Fit, and basically just got hooked, did a beginners course with them, which ended up with a little race at the end, and just got hooked after that. And I guess got inspired by seeing the other people in the training group training for the longer distances. And because I'm kind of an all or nothing type person, I was like, well, I want to do that sort of training. I want to do those bigger sessions. And so then sort of, I guess started with the sprints and the Olympics, but gradually moved up, knowing that partly with age and partly with my strengths, that was going to be more realistic to where I was going to fit into the triathlon scene. The Budapest race was funny. I'd done the Gold Coast the year before, having just started the sport, and really had no idea about triathlon, about sprints, about anything. And was pretty naive to it, but had a brilliant time, met loads of the British team that had come over. And so went into Budapest knowing I was a lot better than I'd been the year before. And I think deep in my heart, I kind of felt I could get on the podium, but hadn't really a clue still. And actually that year, my bike got stolen the day before the race. So,
oh man,
yeah, it was. We were outside.
That's awful.
Yeah, outside the team meeting, and I hadn't locked it up, but there were everyone's bikes were there, but mine was the one that got nicked, unfortunately. But
that breaks your heart, doesn't it?
Yeah, as with true team spirit, one of the girls who was racing the Olympic distance lent me her bike. She was racing the day after me, so I didn't dare change her setup at all because for her race, so I just rode it how it was. And ended up losing. I ended up getting the silver by 7 seconds, which I had no idea at the time, because I didn't. Again, with being based in Australia, I had no idea what the British girls were like, or the rest of the world. Really, you kind of live in Sydney in general is a bit of a bubble life, but not reality, but it's great. I was chuffed to bits to get that silver medal. But really, from that. The next day, or even from that day, finding out that I'd got second by the 7 seconds, that set me up for the following year, because I was determined I wanted to get that gold and not just win my age group, but win, the whole female rank overall. which I did in Beijing, and it was fantastic. And then it was kind of like, okay, so what's next? Well, now it's like stepping up with the big kids, so to speak, and doing the Olympic distance. And then so that was the drive to do Auckland. And then, of course, from that, it was, well, the following year, the world champs were going to be in London. So I definitely wanted to race in London, having, because that would be in front of family and friends, and having never raced in the UK before. And obviously, with it being sort of the Olympic course, it was going to be amazing. But at the same time, it was kind of that stage of going, oh, I needed to step up to the longer distance. There was only so far I was going to get in Olympic distance. I wasn't in the academies or the ITU kind of setup, and I was never going to be in that because my swim isn't good enough and I was too old. So that's why I was looking to step up, and did the 70.3 in Honu with some friends, which was good fun, and got my spot for Vegas. And then it sort of started becoming this, well, can I do the double? Vegas is a week before London, so Vegas was the main aim at that point, and was to win my age group there. But then it was to go to London and see if I could cap it off with the win there as well, which I did, and it was amazing. It was brilliant.
That's pretty amazing in itself to do the double. But for most hard half Ironmans I've ever done, I can't walk down the stairs until the Thursday, and you're lining up. You've got a flight and an 8-hour time difference from Vegas to get over, and then to race an Olympic distance flat out the next weekend and win the World Championships. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
What an amazing story.
Yeah, it was. That week was pretty interesting. I obviously sort of managed the travel and the time difference. I think just the buzz of being back in the UK, being in London, having all my family down there, racing. The bike course was amazing. You're going past every, Big Ben, Buckingham Palace, just these iconic sites. And I think that sort of helped to maybe help my body or my mind forget what my body had just been through.
Yeah.
Also, I think I was still pretty new to the sport, and I was just doing it. I was just training and racing. I didn't really think about what effect it should be or shouldn't be, and I was probably naive to that, and so didn't overly think it.
That's a good tip. That's a good tip for anyone listening right there.
I mean, I have to say,
don't overthink it.
If you see, I think there's a picture of me sort of coming down the blue carpet of the finish line, and it's half smile and half grimace, and I'm pleased because I know I've won, but my legs are about to go into cramp. I think that's sort of the past week catching up on me.
Oh, fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the training you were doing then in order to get to that level, to be multiple world champion, age group overall world champion, and be working a full-time professional job as well at the same time. What sort of weekly hours were you putting in?
I'm probably not the best person to ask on this one. To be honest, I was training quite a lot. I was probably training morning and night most days around my job. I don't sleep particularly well, and particularly when I was working corporate world. So, I'd be getting up early, doing a training session. And the great thing was, I was with the squad I was with in Sydney, Bondi Fit. They offer training sessions every morning and every night all through the week, so there's plenty of options for you to select and fit around your own life, but I was probably doing most of them anyway, so I was probably training a fair bit, probably more than most age groupers could manage and stuff. And they were also, being away from home, the friends that I had through that community, they were my family,
Yeah.
and friends, and my social life. So it was easy to turn up to training because you were with all your friends. So it was never a chore. And you just get addicted to it. I mean, I will say that I think you can still achieve great things as an amateur whilst balancing a corporate job on much less hours, and you have to be smart about it. The other thing for me as an athlete is I tend to work better off volume. And that's something we've been working and discovering over sort of this past year as I transitioned to that full-time role and changed to Matt. So I
Yeah, and I
tend to
suppose
be
there's
that.
only a certain amount of volume you can do around the constraints of needing to be in an office 8 hours a day.
That's
There's
right.
only a
Yeah,
certain amount you can give up before the
yeah,
body just completely breaks, right?
yeah. That's it. And so you have to be very aware of the type of athlete you are as a person. You know, your work commitments, your family commitments are even probably more important than your work commitments. Um, and managing and like I said, you can achieve great things as an age grouper on much less hours if you're just smart about the sessions and what training you do.
Yeah, but having said that, all of those hours you've put in there have probably set you up really well, even if unwittingly so, for moving up to 70.3 and eventually Ironman as well. So you've managed to build a tremendous base over 4 years there to kick off to the full-time training. So I guess that leads us to the point where, you're now Las Vegas world champion at 70.3, London world champion at Olympic distance, and you make that decision, you know what? I think there's maybe more in the tank here for me. And I'm going to take you on your website, which is awesome, laurasiddall.com. I've got to say, it's one of the most professionally put together and nice looking websites I've come across.
Oh, thank
There's a quote at the top. Are you welcome, man? It's awesome. And I love the little butterfly as well.
you.
There's a quote that says, "Success means having the courage, the determination, and the will to become the person you believe you're meant to be." So we're starting to put a bit of a picture together of you here, I think, aren't we? Is that kind of what was going through your head at this point, and you thought, right, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, I mean, so there's, I guess, the last 6 months of what was it, 2013. And I was focusing on Vegas and London, and I would turn up to work, and just my mind would be elsewhere. I would be constantly thinking about my training or my racing, and in a good way, not in a stressful way. Just I was getting that adrenaline from the triathlon and not from my corporate job. And as I said before, there was nowhere I was going to go next in the Olympic distance racing, and so it was going to have to be the half and dare I say at that time the full Ironman, but I hadn't really thought about that, but definitely up to the half distance. And I just thought that I'd probably shied away from progressing in sport at a younger age in netball and athletics. I reached a pretty decent standard in both of those sports when I was younger, but never really took it to that next step because I think I probably always thought that the career and I needed to be the academic and that sort of thing. Um, and so I was sat there in sort of those months in 2013 just going, well, if you don't give it a shot now, you're going to miss this opportunity again, and you're not getting any younger. The corporate side of life is always going to be there, but sport will not necessarily always be there. And one of those things of going, I didn't want to look back in 10 years, 20 years time and say, what if? And I never really knew, and I never really gave it a shot. And so I think ultimately, again, from sort of shying away from making those steps when I was younger, it was a case of going, right, you need to take this opportunity now, and you need to make the changes, and you need to do it properly, to really give yourself the best shot.
Good for you. That's awesome. It really is. And then did you make the decision to hunt down? You started working with Matt Dixon over at Purple Patch Coaching, who his name's come up a lot in interviews we've done recently, actually, with people who have decided to make that jump. We had Emma Kate Lidbury on, who was coached by him for a long time. Excuse me. So at this point, did you decide, right, it's San Francisco or bust?
Um, so kind of, I knew that if I wanted to make the move to professional triathlete, I had to do it properly. I couldn't do it half-hearted. I'd been very lucky. My job at the time had let me go down to 3 days a week, sort of the last couple of months of 2013, which was great. But still, it just wasn't. It wasn't. You then find you're sort of half in limbo between the two worlds. Um,
Yeah.
So I kind of decided, and I chatted with my coach at the time, who's a guy, guy called Spot Anderson, who's a bit of a legend of the sport over in Australia. And we both decided mutually that the best decision would be to look for another coach and another setup. And I kind of felt I needed a clean break from everything in Australia, in Sydney, even though I loved it there, and the training route was great. But I wanted to be in an environment with other professionals so I could train with them, but learn from them. And actually, funnily enough, Emma Kate Lidbury is probably one of the reasons I was aware of Matt Dixon in the first place. I won a competition a year or so earlier, and so was sponsored by Wiggle for a year. And Emma Kate was sponsored by. So it's weird calling her Emma Kate as a good mate. I've got all sorts of other names for her, but Emma Kate is So anyway, she was a Wiggle sponsored athlete at that time, and so we'd been put in contact. So I'd had a bit of email contact with her over that year, and through social media was aware of Matt, and also like Rachel Joyce, I think, had been coached by him at that time as well. So kind of followed him. But when I was looking for another coach, it kind of went, okay, so if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this properly. I want to get the best coach in the world, or the best coach for me in the world. And I was lucky to have had contact with Darren Smith, who's also one of the best coaches in the world over, but coaches sort of mainly the, Jodie Stimpson and the ITU athletes. And I'd been on a training camp with him. So I emailed him with my current coach and just said, look, this is what I'm looking to do. Can you advise me, give any suggestions on coaches who you think might be good? And Darren was great. And he wrote me a huge long email back of all these coaches that he, Matt was on there, but Siri, now my mind's Matt Steinmetz, Cliff English, all of the top coaches, and reasons of plus and minus of where they were based and the other athletes they had. But Matt was at the top of that, and that was the kind of one that just stuck out to me. So we emailed him, and he ignored my email. He tells this story a lot better than me, by the way. And I'm sure he... So, emailed him. He ignored it. I emailed him again. I went through EK to try and get hold of him. And finally, he sort of responded and was very, which is his style at first as well, was very the squad's full, not really looking to take anyone else, but, happy to chat, and we'll have an opportunity, and that, and if there's an opportunity. So I know he Skyped with my coach as well, and then I Skyped and spoke to him, and I just basically said to him, was like, look, I'll come out, I'll fly out to San Francisco to meet you, and you can see me, and vice versa. So I did that, maybe like a few weeks later, and spent the week training with the squad in San Francisco, and I was just loving it, because I'd been in one squad in one environment for sort of 4 years, and you get into the same routine and the same repetition of the training session. So now I was just in this one in San Francisco, which was pretty cool, two with all these other athletes, age groupers and the professionals, and just having my eyes opened to not a totally different way of training, but just different training sessions and that sort of thing. So I was loving it from that point of view. What I didn't really gauge was that Matt, that whole week I was in San Francisco, Matt pretty much ignored me, said very little to me, and all this sort of stuff. But that was kind of part of it. He was just observing, watching me, how I fitted in, and things like that. And so it wasn't till sort of the end of the week that he said, well, if you want to stay in Sydney, I'm not prepared to coach you by distance, but if you move out here, then you're in the squad, which is what I wanted to do. I didn't want to have that distance relationship. I was still so new to the sport, and having stepped up the distance, I had so much to learn. I needed and wanted to be in that environment. So once I got the thumbs up from him, I kind of went back to Sydney, resigned from my job, sold up most of my belongings, or left them with friends who I think they've still got most of it, which I get quite a lot of stick about still. I think it's called what's it called? shit that Sid left, I think is the definition. Yeah, and 4 weeks later, I was back in San Francisco and with Matt, and yeah, that was it from there, really.
Wow, what a great story. And so from this point on, you raced a huge amount of 70.3s through 2014, didn't you? You raced, what's that, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 70.3s and then an Ironman at the end of the season. What did you feel was your best result that year? I can see you've got a couple of thirds, a couple of fourths there, but what was your best result, do you think?
Last in that year. So yeah, it was all pretty big learning. Obviously, I'd only done a couple of 70.3s before that. And then moving over to the States, relocating life, starting with a new coach and things. So it was all about kind of embedding in and settling in that year. I think probably, I'm trying to think now, probably the Mont Tremblant race was probably one of my best or better races when I came third there. I didn't have a great bike for me, but I had a really solid run off it, which was good and gave me sort of a little bit of insight into what I'm capable of on the run. And then the other race I think was probably Vineman, which was a little bit later. Again, not great in terms of results. And again, there's a lot of stuff that I wasn't happy about with that race. But again, the run was good. So that again sort of gave me a bit of confidence there. I think probably those two races stick out the most for me. Probably Mont Tremblant, not the Worlds, but the one in June, because I had a shock at the Worlds.
Well, I mean, you say you had a shock, but as a first-year pro, you're 21st. So that's a big step up from age group to pro racing, isn't it? And that's 21st in the world is
and I
think to sneeze at.
People don't register the difference. You see results on paper. If you looked back to the Worlds the year before in Vegas, I came 11th overall within the pros, but I would be the first one to say it's very different racing age group to pro. As an age grouper, you are setting off in waves, and there are waves in front of you and there are waves behind you, and you're constantly around people. And however, even if you are at the right distance on the bike, you are still able to work off people, and you are still able to, you're passing people constantly. Whereas, excuse me, as a pro, you're going second off, and you could be biking for 90k on your own without seeing anybody else, and that's a completely different style of racing and a completely different mindset. As well, and as
so much of it is in your mind as well, isn't it? When you're out there for 4.5, 5 hours,
that's it.
The difference between passing people all the time and getting that constant sort of reinforcement and positivity, compared to just like there's loads of girls up that way and a few behind me, and
completely, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a solid result, but I think I'd kind of expected from what I'd been doing in training and stuff that I would have had a better result at that World Champs. But probably, if I'm honest, was a little bit overawed by it and hadn't really set myself up mentally for racing with those girls at that level, probably in hindsight. Yeah.
I see. And then you stepped up to Ironman at the end of that season. You raced Ironman Arizona, and then went on to Challenge Wanaka, which we'll talk about in a minute. But how did you find the step up from, obviously it's a big step up from the Olympic to 70.3. How was the step up from 70.3 to Ironman for you?
A little bit of a shock. I mean,
why was that?
Well, I mean, as I've said, I tend to work better off volume. So I guess volume wise in training, it was noticeable difference, but I loved it. I loved like doing the longer miles on the bike, and there's great places to ride in San Francisco and that sort of thing. And stepping up for the run as well. I think more it's just being prepared for again a mindset thing of being out there for that number of hours, and particularly on the marathon, you go from 1 minute you're, I feel good, I feel fine, I'm ticking along nicely, and then literally 10 seconds later you're rock bottom and feel horrific and go, gosh, I'm not even going to make it to the next aid station. So it was that was probably the
It's
biggest.
so true.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest thing about Arizona was how to manage the marathon element of it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And then moving on a little bit, the next race out at Wanaka, I'm guessing, was a different experience altogether,
Yeah.
with having finished second overall. And obviously, Wanaka's got this. Firstly, it's got a reputation around the world as sort of the adventure capital of the world and one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Yeah.
And then Challenge Wanaka itself is now getting this reputation as kind of must-do bucket list type event.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Firstly, what I said, you must do this race. It is a bucket list race. It is.
I would love to.
It is absolutely stunning. It's a beautiful part of the world. Challenge put on a fantastic race. They really do. The community and the whole town of Wanaka and the area really get behind it. And this year or coming up in 2016, it's the 10th anniversary. It's their second biggest. It's Challenge's second biggest race behind Roth.
Is it 10 years since that started now?
This year or in 2016. So it's going to be a great party this year. I think the entries are still open. So any listeners out there, if you want a bucket list race, you should get involved and do this one.
Forget the listeners. Get me out there.
We'll get you out there.
I will come.
I shall speak to Challenge and Vix and see what we can do.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I will love you forever.
Yeah. But yeah, so what happened? We have every January, end of January, we have a training camp in Kona with Purple Patch. So we'd had the camp, and then I flew straight out to Queenstown and Wanaka, and so was there sort of leading up to the race. Went in probably a little bit undercooked. I'd had an issue. I'd been knocked off my bike in January and was causing issues when I was running, so couldn't really run at huge amounts of intensity or speed. Fortunately, in hindsight, that was probably a good thing, because the course in Wanaka, the run course, is not particularly a fast course. So it meant that I didn't need to sort of expose that weakness that I had at the time. But I went into it with pretty, no expectations. It was still my second full distance race, still very new, but just loved it. I mean, again, Challenge looked after you so well. I had some great homestays there while I was there, and so I think I was just probably really relaxed going into it. I had with Purple Patch, one of the guys we work with is a guy called Paul Buick, and he's our bike guru, and he's actually based in Christchurch, New Zealand. So he'd come over to Wanaka, so it was great having him out on the course and giving splits and stuff like that. And it is a brutal. It's beautiful, but it is brutal. That it's a lake swim, 2 laps in the lake, and then you get onto the bike, and you're just riding in stunning scenery around the mountains. But it's rolling. There's no flat. It's all hills. It's all up and down.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah,
love it. Sign me up.
The road surface is chip seal, so it's pretty slow. It's pretty unforgiving. Pretty bumpy constantly. So you've got that constant grind that you just don't go as fast as you normally would in a race. You will get wind at some point in the race. It just depends how strong and in which direction. It's normally a predominantly headwind for a lot of the race, even though it's sort of laps. So go figure that one out. But
love it.
Yeah,
it's like racing in the UK. It's like riding around the Lake District.
And then the run course is 75% of the run course is on track or trail, compact track or trail. And you go down the side of the River Clutha, which is just beautiful. I mean, you're literally running on the water's edge, through woods on this trail, and then you come out of that section. You've got this lovely. I'm trying to think how long it is. No, it's 1.5K climb up this hill called Gun Road, which is you're back on sort of road by that point. But it's a pretty big hill to have in an Ironman. You don't get many other Ironman races with that hill in it. But yeah, it's just a great race, and I had had a pretty good day. I'd had a solid swim, or a good swim for me at the time, and the bike just flowed. I was surprised how quickly I caught the girls in front. Again, it was about, you'll know this from a coach, it was one of those moments where I was in the moment. I didn't at any point in that race think ahead of where I was. So whilst I was getting splits and I knew I was gaining on the girls in front, it was all about what I was doing at that time on the bike, keeping present, keeping focused.
You were totally in the flow in the
Yeah, I
moment.
was.
Everything was just, oh, that's the best feeling in the world. And if it happens on a race day,
It's an
you
amazing
can't ask
feeling.
more than that, can you?
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling, and I only wish I could bottle it and then get it in every race. And then I got on the run, and
Helen was talking about this just the other day in the build-up to her marathon. She had a long run where she went into that space for like 13 miles and was like, if I can just be like this on race day, it's going to be awesome.
oh, she had a great run, didn't she? I see something she smashed her
she
PB
did. She
by
went
35 minutes.
Yeah, 3:11 she went.
That's
It was
crazy.
Yeah. She's been working hard, the girl.
Yeah.
She's coming after you. She's going to turn pro.
That's it.
Oh
yeah,
dear.
it was a good day.
Good stuff. And listen, what's next for you then? What's the rest of the year and the big sort of long-term plan for you?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm in New Zealand, in Christchurch at the moment, and I came down here to spend a couple of months working with Paul, who I mentioned, who lives here, and I raced Mandra 70.3, and then I've got Taupo this coming Saturday. I mean, the main focus for this last couple of months has just been training and getting base fitness and base miles in a different environment, mixing it up. And so the races are just sort of a bonus and a bit of a gauge. But, so there's Taupo, and then next year we've not really mapped out yet, apart from it's kind of depending how these couple of months went, but I will be back down in New Zealand for Wanaka again in February. And then for the rest of the year, not too sure. It will be again focus around the longer distance, so the full Iron distance, probably a mix of challenge and Ironman races. I would love to go to 70.3 Worlds in Australia. I would love at some point to race in Kona, but I don't think it will be the goal and the focus for next year. I think there's the other thing about, as a professional athlete, yes, Kona is seen as that ultimate destination to get to, but, at the same time, being a professional athlete is also about, whilst you don't do it for the money, you do it for the love of the sport, because it's not a rich sport. You do have to get a living somehow, and so for me, there's a realization that I actually want to have fun doing it as well. So if I can pick amazing races in cool places and different races and do it that way, then I think there's something to be had there. So maybe not focusing so much on trying to chase points, but just going and racing in good places and having a lot of fun while I do that.
Yeah, good for you, because I think at the end of the day, every single top pro triathlete in the world is focused on that one performance in Kona.
Yeah.
And you've got this opportunity to go and race in incredible places and make the money while you're doing it as well, which is obviously got to be part of it as you're racing pro.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you.
I mean,
do you think you... Go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, it's hard because so much focus is put on Kona from sponsors, from companies, from the other athletes, that you do feel that should be where your focus should be, and that should be where you're drawn to. And so it's sometimes hard to step away and go, actually, no, I'm not going to focus on that. I just want to, I want to go and win races. I want to go and podium, and I want to do it in great places and with good challenging races and that sort of thing. But it's hard to get the industry sometimes to see that.
Yeah, of course. It does sometimes become a little bit Kona focused, doesn't it? And
Yeah.
now, especially, there are so many races, both under the Challenge and Ironman brand around the world, that if you can travel around and make a living racing every month or every few weeks, why wouldn't you want to do that? It sounds like the perfect way to
Yeah.
spend a few years if you're fast enough. Good for you, mate. All right, listen, thank you ever so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
That's all right.
Best of luck at Taupo next weekend. By the time this comes out, you'll probably have raced actually, so we'll know the results already.
Yep.
So there'll be a bit back to the future stuff going on here. We'll have already talked about the results of that race. But really looking forward to seeing how you go. I'd love to see you get on the top of that podium in Wanaka. That's a real marquee event, and it sounds like you've got the kind of connection with the place, and it'd be great to see you win that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And hopefully we can get you back on the show at some point in the future and you can tell us how it's all gone.
Would love to, Rob. It's been great. I really enjoy listening to you guys. So yeah, I'd love to come back on again in the future.
Just sorry we couldn't sing any Whitney Houston for you.
Probably better for both of us and the listeners.
I think so. All right. Cheers, Laura.
Thanks, Rob.
And there we go. We're back. There was Laura.
Oh, brilliant. She's such a good egg. And Rob,
I love her. She's great.
She bought a load of Fueled by cake books.
Good girl.
Yeah, legend. Absolute star. So brilliant to get her on. And I really hope that she has a fantastic season.
Yeah, it'd be very, very good if she could win Wanaka this year. I think she doesn't say as much in the interview, but I think she's really, really gunning for, taking the win out. And God, the way she talks about it just makes me want to go down there and do it. It's another on my expanding toilet roll list of races to do.
I like the fact that it's on a toilet roll. That means it's easily disposed of,
Well, you said it.
If it was on a piece of card and you framed it, it would mean a lot more. You'd have to go and do it. Whereas on a piece of tissue, it's just going to dissolve, isn't it? So.
Well, the post-it's on the wall next to me.
That's it. Get it on
it's
there.
The thing's on. And they had this race this weekend they're advertising, right? Across the Lakes run, 50 miles across the lakes, north to south, in October.
God, that sounds great.
Amazing. It looks amazing. You start right at the north edge of the lakes and you go over Blencathra down into Keswick and then up along the Helvellyn Ridge, down into Ambleside, and then down the western shore of Windermere to finish in Cartmel.
That sounds absolutely brilliant.
I filled out the entry form.
Have you?
Yesterday. I filled it out and I got to click here to enter.
And then you walked out.
And I was like, I should probably talk to my wife about this before I click enter.
Just say you're going for a long. Do
you fancy it? Shall we do it? Shall we have a cup of Tri-Day out?
What, next October?
I think it's October the 16th.
50 miles?
50 miles.
I would like to be able to say yes.
You might be in Kona. That's the problem. You can't commit. I've just realised, I've just looked at the calendar. I know I won't be, but you very well probably will be qualifying for Kona.
No, I don't think so. Oh, you don't think so?
Well, that's all that's got to change is the thinking.
Right, well, whatever. It's a definite possibility. I like the sound of it. I mean, running across the lakes.
One for the bucket list.
Yes, that one.
Cool. Right, let's mention a few sponsors then, and then we'll tie it up and we'll finish for the day. Let's start by our friends over at raceforce.co.uk using the code, Helen, do you remember? Because I can never damn well remember.
COT10.
Yep. Gets you 10% off traveling with, sending your bike over with them on the Bike Bus or the Bike Bus Pro. Rather than lugging it through the airport, stick it in the back of the big silver Mercedes Sprinter. It gets there for you and it gets a loving once over from the mechanic when you get there as well. It all gets reassembled, which is cool. And I think they've just added a couple of things onto their website, haven't they? They've added Frankfurt, I noticed.
Yeah, and they've added Valse, which is going to be the European Middle Distance Championships next August.
Good. So, I'm glad to see Kate listen to me. I said to her, you should add that one in, mate, because there'll be loads of Brits going over to that one.
There will be. And Lucy Gossage raced that one last year, didn't she? And she said it was like racing in a box of chocolates. It was stunning. That's middle of August. If I wasn't away next August, I would absolutely be going to Austria again, but I'm not going to be here, so I won't be.
Yeah, so get yourself down on the list for challenge. How do you pronounce it? Valksy?
I think, yeah, Valksay. I don't. Yep, something like that.
Challenge Valksy. Cool. And winter is the time to be looking after your immune system and to be getting recovery in after your ride. So why not try a little bit of recovery produce from myprotein.com? Using the code OxygenAddict15, you get 15% off your first order, or OxygenAddict8, you get 8% off if you're a returning customer. They've got loads of great sort of whey protein and soy proteins there, and loads of sort of... Have you ever tried these, like, greens in a pill type things, Hells?
No, because I'm Rob. You know what I'm like. I'm one of those people who
You're a
would.
fresh fruit girl, aren't you?
Yeah, I would absolutely just buy a blooming bag of or a thing of I don't what are they called, winter greens or whatever. I would just buy the veg or some broccoli or an avocado, etc.
Not always easy though when you're working shifts. Sometimes you pop one of those in the desktop drawer and think, I'll just take a little bit of this green powder. Caroline Livesey swears by it. She was saying she's really felt like, this season her immune system's been stronger because of it. So I'm the same as you, mate. I've never tried it, but perhaps I should open my mind to it a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just bad.
You just enjoy it. I think if you can get the real fruits and veggies in, then awesome.
The other
and
thing,
if you can't, you've got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, totally. The other thing that my protein do, which is probably worth knowing, is that they do actually do sort of clothing and accessories as well for the gym. So you can still get a discount on that, surely.
Yeah, you can. The discount
so
code will work on that.
That's probably worth knowing. If it...
Do they do high-cut shorts and low-cut vests? That's the question.
If they do, I'm buying some.
Fake tan. They must do fake tanners. I'm going to get some fake tan for Christmas to go.
Oh my God.
Gym instructor.
I'm absolutely not a gym buddy. It's hilarious.
Oh, brill. All right, let's tie this up then. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. We are going to be taking a week off next week, aren't we, Helen?
Are we doing one more, or is this it now? Is this it?
We could. Shall we do next week?
Yeah, let's do next week. One more before Christmas.
Next week.
Yep.
We'll do one more before Christmas,
Yep.
and then we're going to have a week off. Give ourselves a week off over Christmas. So we will be back with another episode next week. Guys, if you're out there and you'd like to contribute, we would love to hear you using the old SpeakPipe app on our webpage. Just click on it and leave us a message. How about if we get people to contact ourselves and tell us what races they're going to do next year? I want to hear what people's A races are for next year.
Yep, I like that.
That sounds like a good one. It's a time of year to make a commitment.
So, Rob, what's yours, please, first?
My commitment? Yep. Oh, don't do this to me. I'm definitely going to do Slate Man.
There we go. We had it right there. Okay,
I'm definitely going to do Slate Man, Rob, and I definitely want to do Triathlon X.
There's a difference there, isn't there? Want and going to do.
I'm trying to get the organizer on. I keep trying to contact him to get him on. I think if we talk to him, I'll have to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So you're a definite for Slate Man. Brilliant. I'm a definite
for Slate Man.
For Ironman UK.
I'm a definite for Fred Whitten if I get in.
Oh my God.
If entries open, I think Monday the 4th of January, if you're interested in Fred Whitten. So I'm definitely in for that. I'm definitely in for Wilmslow Half Marathon.
Okay, yep. There we go. We've got some commitment. This is good. It's growing.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Definitely doing Highly 10K. I've entered that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
And I want to do a half Ironman as well.
Enter Chester, middle distance.
I'm away.
Bala?
I'm away then as well.
Oh, all right. I'll have a think.
2 first weeks of June.
Anyway, if you would like...
It's going to be the end of the year.
If you want to tell us what races you're committing to next year, all you need to do is go onto the oxygenaddict.com/podcast, and up there's a little button and you can press record, and it's only 90 seconds that you're allowed, so a little quick look, hello, my name is, and this is what I'm committing to next year, and we can hopefully bring some of them together and put them in next week's show.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to say if we get 5 listeners, I'm going to enter the X. 5 messages and I'm entering. Challenge is on, Helen.
Cannot turn back.
Cannot turn back. It's up to you, listeners. Do you want to put me through 15 hours of pain in the middle of next summer?
He's been going on about it for so long, so please, please, please leave a message.
Yeah, and if you sing Whitney Houston as part of your message, it counts double.
Laura, get on it. Laura SIddall, please get on it.
All right, let's leave it there. Thanks very much for listening, everyone. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
And I'm Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We'll speak to you all again next week. Cheers now.